the vascular damage that happens through using any form of THC. This is a little bit outside of the norm of what I usually talk about, but I thought it's an important issue for those that might use THC, whether that's distillates, gummies, whatever you may use, and you're either a recreational or semi-competitive bodybuilder who's on TRT, or you may have blood pressure issues, or you may have genetic heart issues, etc., etc., etc. Now, just the first thing you type in when you type in THC and blood pressure is marijuana can make the heart beat faster and can make blood pressure higher immediately after use. And the message there is that right after you smoke for 10, 15 minutes-ish, your blood pressure and your heart rate raise. But after a while, it actually will lower blood pressure to some extent in most people. That said, how do people usually use THC? Well, they usually use a little, wait a little bit, use a little more, wait a little bit, use a little more, right? So there's never that chance for blood pressure to truly drop, or at least not for a long period, let's be honest, right? So the other night I'm sitting there in bed and I'm like, man, my heart rate's up. And I'm going to get into what my blood pressure and heart rate were in that moment, and then what they were after I started using a specific supplement that can be shown to lower that heart rate and blood pressure that results from the vascular damage that happens through using any form of THC. And I'll get to that at the end. So number one, THC raises blood pressure and heart rate. Okay, immediately after use, we know this. What's the supplement that helps that? The supplement that helps that is a cannabinoid receptor 1 antagonist. There are more than one type of cannabinoid receptor in our body, and this one blocks the receptor site so that that hypertensive state does not occur. And it actually protects your blood cells, the endothelial cells on the edges of the blood, so that you're able to have full blood flow, reasonable heart rate, etc., etc. But this cannabinoid receptor 1 antagonist is Genistein. And what happens is it attaches and blocks THC from binding to the cannabinoid receptor 1. And this results in lower blood pressure. Now, there's some concern with Genistein that it can cause or exacerbate the potential of breast cancer in certain people. If you don't have the breast cancer gene, this is a non-issue. I don't have the breast cancer gene. I don't have that high risk factor for that. And neither does my partner, thankfully. That said, I looked a little more into it, and the truth is except for very specific cases, and in fact, it's kind of a tenuous correlation in the first place, Genistein can actually reduce cancer tumors. This is the tenuous correlation that's been drawn. High levels of estrogen have been linked to an increased risk of breast cancer. However, food sources of soy, which is where Genistein comes from, don't contain high enough levels of isoflavones. So a soy isoflavone, like the one from bulksupplements.com, is going to be 50% Genistein. So this makes a pretty good bargain. And I've already started using it. I am not sponsored by Bulk Nutrition or bulksupplements.com. I love them. I mean, if I'm going to try something out, why not buy a whole bag of it, you know? So that's the way I always do it. I'm a cheapskate, so I love their prices. And they're super quick to ship. So I should be sponsored by them, but I don't, 50 views doesn't quite get it. So, but yeah, that's 50% of what's in the soy isoflavones is Genistein. So I delved into the studies a little more, and I'm a little disorganized tonight, so I did not bring that up. But through researching, and you can hunt down a study, you just go to Google Scholar and just type in Genistein and THC, blood pressure, whatever, you're going to find them pretty quickly. But essentially what transferred over from all the animal studies, at least, was 750 milligrams for a 100 kilogram bodybuilder, right? So it was 50 milligrams per kilogram on the mice and stuff, and then using maybe I was using the rat conversions. They're pretty close. But anyway, it always transfers over to about 15%, 20% of what is used on mice because it's a surface area issue. And I don't quite understand how those conversions work, but I have a link to it thanks to Yajit. Thank you again. And what I figured out was that I needed 750 milligrams. I'm 220 pounds, right at 100 kilograms. So that's what I've been using. And after I used it, okay, so the other night, when I'm talking about my blood pressure being high, my heart rate being high, I'm talking it was high. It was 152/85 resting. My heart rate was 102, 103, thereabouts, resting. I took it a few times. Then, after using the Genistein just for a few days, and around the time that I was testing as well, so I don't know how acute it is, but I do take it if I feel like I need it. It was all the way down to 127/77, and my heart rate was down to 92. Now, I've had a high heart rate my whole life, ever since I was a baby. So that's something I live with and work with. I take a beta blocker for that, but that's a trade-off. You take too much of that, you don't want to get up. So I got to live with myself. So still a high heart rate, but that's, yeah, I took it. I did test it a few times. I got it to test as high as 140/80, and so on average, it was much, much better. And, you know, if mine's testing out like 135/75, 77, 80, something like that, that's not too bad for me. I have high blood pressure. I've always had high blood pressure. I've always had a high heart rate ever since I was a little kid, ever since my whole life. So no matter how healthy, no matter how lean, no matter what I do, no matter how much cardio I do, you know, my heart rate will go down a little bit, but that's where it is. So I'm a little embarrassed to talk about it because people hear that and they think, oh man, you're not fit. Well, maybe not, but that's, I've been around the block on it, so we're dealing with it. But that's the difference it made, and that's a significant difference. That's from very unhealthy to just slightly unhealthy. So I'll take that any day. So this is just a quick video. I wanted to share that for anybody out there that may be suffering from that problem and not even realize it. Get yourself a cheap ass Equate automatic. I think these things are like 20 bucks. Maybe you can probably find one on sale for that or a little less. And what you do is you set it up so that this dot is right here at the crux of your elbow in the middle. Okay, and get it on so it's tight on your arm. And keep this needs to be approximately at heart height. And I've got monkey arms, so you want to be sitting up normally and rest, and don't move while you're taking it. Hit the button, see what your blood pressure is, check it occasionally. Blood pressure is one of those overlooked things that over time causes more harm than anything. Because of the pressure on your vascular system, it can wear on your heart, cause issues. It can lead to stiffening of the arteries, and not to mention your kidneys. If those kidneys are experiencing high pressure, the tubules over time wear out and you don't get that back. You don't want to go on dialysis. You don't want to put yourself in a position like that. So watch your blood pressure. There's lots of great bodybuilding industry videos from some experts, coaches, and so forth that will tell you some other options for that. But I just wanted to touch on that. I hope you found this helpful, and keep pumping and keep pumping.